Welcome to Listen to Your Soul, the podcast where we explore self-discovery, intuition, personal growth, and the magic of living in alignment. I'm Sandy Banfield, your host on this journey of soulful transformation. This is the space for you if you're ready to trust your inner wisdom, embrace your power, and create a life that feels truly yours. Thank you for tuning into another episode. I want to take a moment to say how grateful I am that you are here. Whether you're listening in the car, on a walk, or curled up with a cup of coffee, this is time for you. Today, we're going to be diving into a topic that is so deeply connected to everything I do within this podcast. In today's episode, we'll be diving into the topic of the power of authenticity and what it truly means to embody your authentic self. We'll be exploring how authenticity connects with your soul's expression and why so many of us struggle to fully show up as our true selves. It's a really juicy topic. We're also going to be exploring how to navigate fear and judgment along the way. So if you're ready to shed the layers of conditioning and step into your truth, this episode is for you. Okay, let's dive in. All right, so here's an outline of what we're going to cover. We're going to be covering what authenticity really is beyond the buzzword, why so many of us struggle to fully express our truth, and we'll be touching on a bit about the witch wound. If you don't know about it, we'll be delving into that topic. The connection between authenticity and soul alignment, practical ways to embody your authentic self in everyday life, and how to navigate fear and judgment when we're stepping into our truth. Okay, so to start off, let's touch on what does it actually mean to be authentic. We hear the word authentic all the time. It's a total buzzword. But what does it actually mean? It's not just about being honest or transparent, is it? I personally feel like there's a lot of it lacking in the world right now. Those who are authentic or seem to be authentic actually aren't. Those who are authentic are the people I'm drawn to hang out with. You are my people. I really don't have time for people who aren't their true selves and authentic. I just don't. Authenticity in its simplest form is about living in alignment with your deepest truth. It's about allowing your inner world to match your outer expression. It's when your actions, words, and choices come from your true self, not from fear, and not from external pressure or external expectations. But here's the thing, most of us weren't taught how to do this. Since childhood, we have been conditioned. We've been told that we have to mold ourselves to fit in, to be liked and to be accepted. Maybe you've even felt that pressure too. I know I have. And it's taken me a long time to unwrap all of that. It's taken me years and years and years, and I'm still working on it to this day. We've been conditioned to say the right thing, to show up in a way that's expected, to hold back part of ourselves because of fear of what others might think. But when we suppress who we truly are, we really start to disconnect from ourselves, from our soul's essence. This feels quite deep, doesn't it? But I guess, what's the flip side of that? It's like if you don't connect to who you are authentically, if you don't connect to your authentic self, you might start to just not feel you. You might feel sad. You might feel like you're not living life to its fullest potential. You might even feel like you're hiding behind a curtain. And we don't want that, do we? We're not here for that long on this earth. We've only got one shot at this life while we're here, so we want to make the most of it. Don't want to be hiding. We don't want to be putting limits on ourselves. We don't want to be capping our potential. We don't want to be hitting a ceiling. We want to break through that. We just want to be here in our truest form. And the people that know you and are around you, they want that for you as well. Okay, so I have a question for you. Do you feel like this is you right now? If the answer is yes, that's okay. Remember to be kind to yourself and remember you're not alone. It's all something that we need to work through. I am still working through it myself. showing up as authentically as I can be. It's not an easy path. It's not an easy road necessarily. And we're going to delve into this a little bit more. And this is a good point to come on to. Like, why is it so hard to be fully authentic? And let's talk about why so many of us struggle with this. Why do we struggle with our authenticity? The biggest reason most of the time, and we've touched on this a bit in the previous episode, season 1, episode 1, if you haven't listened to it, I recommend going back and having a check out and a listen of that. The biggest reason most of the time is fear. And when it comes to authenticity, it really leads to fear of rejection. What if people don't accept me? Fear of failure. What if I put myself out there and it doesn't work? And fear of judgment. What will people say about me? I want to remind you that you are an amazing soul who's living in this human body, and you are wired for connection. And it's natural to want to be accepted because we all want that, don't we? But what's the price that we pay when we prioritize external approval over our own truth? I can tell you, you start to lose yourself and you start to get on that treadmill. And then the more you try to fit in, the more disconnected you feel. And I'm talking from personal experience. One major reason we struggle with authenticity is connection to something called the witch wound. If you haven't come across this term, the witch wound, before, it's a deep ancestral fear that lingers today, causing us to dim our light. And some of us feel this deeply. If you want to know more about the witch wound, there's a couple of great books out there. One's called Heal the Witch Wound by Celeste Larson. And there's another book, I think, called Simply Witch by Lisa Liston. And they delve into this topic a bit deeper. And it's really a really good thing to kind of fully understand, because this might be where you're kind of holding yourself back, restricting yourself from being seen and being authentic. The witch wound is a process of working through layer after layer, or at least it has been for me. The journey to authenticity isn't about acceptance. It's really important to understand that. It's not about acceptance from others. It's not about acceptance from anything external. It comes down to acceptance from yourself. It's about aligning the fears. It's about shedding the mask. It's about allowing your soul to truly shine through without apology. And it's not that straightforward either, is it? Because we come up against so much resistance when we do this. So if fear holds us back from being authentic, what happens when we fully embrace our truth? For me, that's where soul alignment comes in. Your soul, the essence of who you are, it wants to be expressed. And when you suppress your truth, it creates a feeling of resistance, of misalignment, and even a form of what I call emotional heaviness. For instance, have you ever felt drained by a situation where you just really weren't being yourself? That's because when we act out of alignment with ourselves, with our soul, it takes so much more energy than just being you. You feel disconnected. It's as simple as that. When you embody your authentic self, things start to flow. You'll notice that. Opportunities will start aligning, your relationships will deepen, and you'll feel a greater sense of inner peace. And that's a real key thing. You stop overthinking what you should be doing. Instead, you move towards things with ease, more into the energy of what feels right for you. And there is a real connection here between authenticity and intuition. And if you haven't listened to my earlier episode on intuition, I really recommend checking out. It's season 1, episode 1. So go back and have a listen of that. Okay, so this connection between authenticity and intuition, the two really marry together. It's a beautiful synchronicity of the two coming together. So how do we start living more authentically? Okay, so here are a few powerful suggestions for you. Firstly, we want to reconnect with our inner knowing. We want to spend time in reflection, journaling, meditation. You could do a voice recording with your thoughts, just a way that you can just tune into what really feels true for you. Find the outlet that you connect with most and just start there. Secondly, you want to notice where you're hiding. Bring your awareness to this. Ask yourself, where am I holding myself back? Where am I playing small? Because sometimes we don't even realize this. We don't see where we're dimming our light. Others can usually shine that light on us. And it might be worth asking one of your close friends, can they come and give you some guidance and some insights? Because sometimes we just need someone to hold that mirror up for us and reflect it back that we can't see where we're dimming out light. Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. And that's why doing this process of unveiling and bringing some awareness to it is really, really helpful. And I'd recommend doing some journaling again, because it's one of the most underused things that people just don't do enough. And it really helps you to unravel and helps you get further insights. The next, you want to start speaking your truth, even if they're just small ways to start. You don't have to make dramatic life changes overnight. Just start small. And this is simply just to start by speaking up in conversations, sharing your thoughts, saying no when something doesn't feel right or aligned for you. And you can do it in a really kind way. You don't have to be argumentative or anything like that. You can still speak your truth in a kind way. All right. Moving on, you then want to trust your energy. And by that, what I mean is pay attention to what expands you versus what drains you. Your energy is always going to tell you where you're in alignment and where you're out of alignment. And you need to tap into that. It's your guide. If you're thinking about a situation, tap into it. How does your energy feel when you think about it? Do you feel heavy or do you feel light? That's a real good guide for you. And lastly, you want to surround yourself with people who see the real you. This is so important. Find your people. The people who support you and your growth are your cheerleaders. They are there to encourage you to be your fullest, most authentic self, and they support you and don't judge you. I have a beautiful network that I have surrounded myself with, and even to get this podcast launched, I had to call on them to become my support group and my cheerleaders to help me on my way. And honestly, without them, I don't think I would have launched this podcast, because I've had so much fear, resistance, visibility issues, imposter syndrome, all these topics I'm going to cover in the podcast and go into more detail. But without that beautiful group who I just asked kindly, would they come on board and support me to help me launch my podcast? And my gosh, just the energy that I received from them was just so beautiful and so magical. And I just want that for you as well. I want you to find your people. I want you to be surrounding yourself with that energy, the ones that are going to prop you up. Your cheerleaders. They're there. You just need to find them. If you haven't found them yet, go seek them. Okay, so one of the biggest blocks is fear of judgment. Oh, I know. I've had this myself. I have it still. I have it all the time. It's things that basically it'll either paralyze you or it won't. And it might paralyze you for a little while before you move through it. You just need to make sure it doesn't keep you stuck for too long. But here's something I want you to remember. People are always going to have opinions. They're going to have opinions of you, whether you like it or not. The question is, are you going to let their opinions shape your life? Or are you going to just step into your truth anyway? Coming from my own personal experience, it's not easy. It's like a full-on resistance that you just hit this wall constantly, and you just need to keep nudging that wall back a bit, one step at a time. Gentle steps, just keep nudging it, pushing it back, pushing it back. It's really not that simple. It's about taking ownership and being like, okay, I'm just being myself. This is my authentic self and I'm going to do it anyway. The more you practice this authenticity, the easier it gets. Over time, it will get easier and easier. And the more that you just trust yourself, the less external validation you're going to need, because your soul actually knows the way. You've got to remember that. Your soul knows the way. You just have to listen. So there's another great book I just want to touch on that I have been talking about so much to everyone, my clients and everyone I've been coming across recently. This book I'm not affiliated with. However, I have just finished reading it, and it's Mel Robbins' The Let Them Theory. I have had Mel around in the background for a while. She's been lingering there, but I honestly, personally haven't listened to much of her stuff. And then just before her book was launched, she kept coming onto my radar. And then I ended up purchasing the book and listening to it. And I have to say, The Let Them Theory is probably one of the best personal development books that I've read in the last 5 years. Honestly, I don't want to give too much away if you haven't heard it, but I really recommend it. And some of it might not be that new to you, but sometimes we just need those reminders, don't we, of just reminding ourselves to step into our truth and who we are. And that's a great book if you want to go and check it out. Okay, moving on. I want to reiterate that this is an ongoing journey. You're going to unwrap one layer and then there'll be another and another and another. I used to hide so much behind my work, behind my business. For instance, my old business, I never put my face out there. I hid behind a logo and no one really saw me. And it was kind of when social media was just about sort of launching and kind of doing its thing. It wasn't full of all the reels and all the TikTok things going on that is around these days. However, I used to hide. I couldn't bear to put myself in the limelight. And now if you look at me, gosh, I still feel uncomfortable. People think I'm an extrovert. I'm actually an introvert. I'm very introverted. I prefer to hide. I have had to create a business around my personality and things like that. But on the outside, people say to me, oh my gosh, you seem to be everywhere. And it's something that does feel uncomfortable for me, and it still does, but I just have to get out of my own way. I've had to learn just to push through, keep nudging that wall back, and know that the work that I'm doing and what I'm trying to do is bigger than me. And if my work can help one person, if it can help you, then that's why I'm doing this. And I have to just step beyond that resistance. I have to step beyond that fear so that I can actually do the work that I feel authentically is me, that I'm here to do and to put out into the world. And in my last business, I even started to attract more soulful clients, which is what I was trying to do before I actually stepped into this current business. And I was manifesting them. And then I ended up kind of self-sabotaging myself. And to the point that I've got pregnant and I just closed that business down. And that was purely looking back. There was a misalignment. However, most of that was fear. It was fear to the point I self-sabotaged myself and I closed that business down. I mean, looking back, it was the right decision for me to do because it's now then let me step forward and take that time out. And I've created this current business, which is totally me and my authentic self. But that last business took me on a path, took me on a journey. It allowed me to step forward and move into the work that I now do. And if that's where you're at right now, if you're just on this edge and you're just feeling that nudge that, it feels scary and I'm not sure what to do and I'm feeling all the feels and I'm feeling all the fear, that's okay. It's okay to feel like that. But just remember, your work that you're here to do it's bigger than you. The other part of this is that some people are going to listen to me. They're going to look at my work. They're not going to vibe with me. Dare I say it, some people won't even like the sound of my voice, and that's okay. I just have to know that the people that are going to be drawn to me, who are my people, are not going to be put off by my voice or what I look like or what I'm saying. They are going to be my people that are attracted to me. And those are the people, that's okay as well. They just won't like what I do. They won't be vibing with me. That's all right. And it's taken me a long time to be okay with that. You know, as a recovering people pleaser, as someone who constantly has had to kind of feel like they're always people pleasing and having to keep everyone happy all the time and making sure everyone likes me, that's a really hard thing to overcome. And it's still a challenge every single day. Don't get me wrong on that. But I'm learning just to be more and more okay with that, to step out of myself, to be more me, stepping more into my authenticity. And I'm getting more comfortable with it. I still get triggered all the time. And I still have new layers and levels that I'm working through each and every day. Even with launching this podcast was one of the huge things recently. I've just been feeling all the fear every single day before getting this out into the world. And even talking to close friends and family, I felt fearful about telling them, let alone everyone else. And it's this connection to the witch wound, which I touched on earlier. For me, this repeated theme of being visible, unwrapping that witch wound. The difference now is that in the past, it would have paralyzed me and I wouldn't have continued. I would have just stopped. I would have, like my old business, like I said, I self-sabotaged, I closed it down. There were other reasons with that, but it paralyzed me in the past. But now I feel like I work through it and then I learn to get out of my own way and I get on with it, even if it feels scary, even when I feel sick to my stomach. And the reason I move past that is because I'm aligning to my truth, my intuition, and my authentic self. And as I said earlier, when they're married together and I just know that this is my way forward, this is my path forward, I have learned to get out of my own way, to keep going anyway. Most likely going to do a specific episode just on the witch wound at some point, but I want to just talk about how this is also linked to visibility, imposter syndrome, the witch wound. All these things come up when we're trying to be our authentic self, and it comes back to we are trying to people please, we are trying to fit in, we're trying to mold ourselves. We don't want to be seen to be different. But as I've begun to step into my truth and who I am, I know who my people are. I know my people will find me. And if you're listening to this now, you are one of them. And I just want you to have the courage to live authentically too, in all areas of your life. All right, so let's recap on what we've covered so far and what living authentically means. Firstly, you want to reconnect with your inner knowing. You want to honor your truth. Secondly, you want to notice where you're hiding. Start shedding the layers of your conditioning. Bring some awareness back to that. And then you can move on to start speaking your truth. So moving through the fear with courage. And then number 4 is paying attention to what expands you, what drains you, and trusting your energy. See how heavy or light you're feeling. And lastly, you want to surround yourself with the people, your people, the right people that are there to support you and encourage you all the way. Okay, so I have a small soulful challenge for you, if you're up for it, that is. I want you to think about one thing that feels fully aligned with your authentic self. It might be speaking your truth, making a decision from your heart, or just creating some boundaries. What I call boundaries with kindness, or simply just noticing when you're holding back. Whatever it is, you want to take one small step towards yourself, towards you being your authentic self. So remember, the world doesn't need a version of you that fits in. It needs the real you. You want to keep showing up and being your true essence, your true authentic self. Before we wrap up, I want to end on this lovely quote. It's actually an anonymous. I couldn't find a credit for it, but it's, when you show up authentically, you create a space for others to do the same. So walk in your truth. And that's what this is about. It's when we show up as ourselves, the energy we give off will then transfer onto those around us. It's like this butterfly effect. When we show up authentically, you don't just transform your own life, it gives permission for others to do the same. So I just want to say thank you for spending the time with me today, if you've listened this far, as we've explored the world of authenticity. If this episode has resonated with you, I'd love to hear some of the small wins that you've had in ways that you've stepped into your own authenticity. And please message me or tag me on Instagram with your thoughts, because I really love to hear how you've got on with this. Until next time, that's all for me. Thank you for joining me on Listen to Your Soul. I hope today's episode brought you some clarity, inspiration, or a little spark of magic. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone who you feel might need this message.